So when you're seeing it, you get this shape again inside of it, and you can see the different colors. Like you'll see, yeah, here's the Saturn over on the right, top right, and you see the blue-green line to the sun and the green line to the Earth. So you can see if you follow the line from the Earth, you're seeing how Saturn's going to be in Libra. But if you're looking from the sun, you see how it's in Scorpio. You see the slight distortion and where something is because the Earth's moving around it. So a lot of astronomers, when they're trying to measure stars or measure things that are really far out there, they'll take photographs of that star with the Earth at one side of its orbit, and they'll wait to the other half of the year and take photographs of the other side of its orbit, and they have two different pictures of that star from two different points, thousands, millions of miles apart, and those two pictures are put together, they give a better picture of the star. So that's how this photography began. Then they started adding you started having the color spectrum. They started having lasers. You start having different ways of measuring the stars from getting so much more information. But still, this process of taking observations at one side of the orbit to the other side of the orbit gives a wide space, not very wide when you're thinking about stars, but wide enough for us to be able to see distinctions and get differences in those stars. So this is just, you can get those with the stars or the constellations around it. And you get the pattern type. You get this cosmic pattern type for the heliocentric chart. Close up. Let's get here. You get the close up. So when you put, what I did, I took all the three heliocentric charts and the three different pattern types. These are from the same chart. All the planets are in the same places. Look at the language. Look at how it's being talked about. Don't you want to know yours? Our class starts out, these are extra things to study once you've finished with your classes. We still have progressions to go through, but this is expanding. There's places to go. Astrology keeps growing. You don't stop learning. It keeps evolving as long as you're ready to. But I mean, you get 1,000 people's charts and work through their different pattern types, and you start saying, wow, look at this one, look at Edgar Allan Poe's, look at Beetles, and you start seeing the different patterns. Without signs or houses, just aspects. Stress patterns, different colors of it. This is a use of color and color psychology that it's the nature of light and dark. It's beyond what, how color psychology, well, it's good if you know color psychology, it's really, this opens up to incredibly, but really the signs of the zodiac are the colors of the spectrum, the 12 colors and the 12 sounds for music. So these are mandala patterns, but you could also play these musically and have music patterns, scores for each individual. Words are the lowest form of astrology. There's other ways of tuning in and seeing things. And this is, you can get a mandala just with the planets, no aspects. And they're all, everybody's would be in different positions, different groupings, and just that with no relevance around it. That's a good meditation. So we're looking at the heliocentric charts. There's the three above all have the constellations. The three below all have the stars. So in that way, they're the same forms. But you have on the left-hand side, the standard aspects. The right-hand side, the mandala, the rays. Each planet sends up the two color lines for each sign, for each aspect. And the one on the right is the rays from the sun and the rays from the earth, not from the other planets. It's just what's coming, where the planets are by the sun and where the planets are by the earth, and how they are different, and it creates its own pattern type too. So these are the three heliocentric charts. We're not finished yet. Okay, there's a whole nother area to go to. Coming down a little bit from the heavens and the heliocentric is profoundly mind-blowing. It's so incredible. It's like a spiritual hug. Okay, this is something we haven't seen. Equatorial charts based on the equator. Astronomers use the right ascension, they use the equator, they take the equator and they measure where things are along the equator, and as they go north, and they project them out into the sky, and that's how they measure the stars. But they use it in terms of measuring hours, minutes. There's 24 hours instead of 12 signs or 30 degrees. Instead of 360 degrees, there's 24 hours with 60 minutes and 60 seconds. But it's still measuring, doing the same thing. It can be interpreted as a zodiac too. So here at the equator, as the Earth turns, it's measuring the equator. The houses are equal. Every house is exactly 2 hours as the Earth turns. So when you, some of the insights. Okay, in a normal horoscope, if you have a planet just in the 12th house or just in the first house, by degree, we have the ascendant degree and we have the planet degree. Depending whether that planet's north or south, it may not be in your 12th house. It may actually be in your first house. It may not be in your first house. It may actually be in your 12th house, depending north or south, because the ascendant fits to the equator, not exactly, it's not fitting to the degrees of the ecliptic. They're on an angle to it. So you can't really know for sure. But in the right ascension chart, the equatorial chart, the planet is exactly in the house it's in. They're in the 12 houses. The 12 houses are equal. The Earth turns are exact divisions. So I would always, when that came up, I would quickly look at the right ascension chart and just, or the equatorial chart, and just see where the planets are by houses, to just be sure if it's in first or 12th, which way that's pointing, or the 7th or 8th. And so that was one useful factor insight. We're going to get to this that part a little bit more when we get to the stars, the individual stars, and looking at it in about four or 5 more sessions. At the same time, the tropical zodiac here is different. It's the same seasons. The spring, the beginning of spring, the beginning of summer, the solstices, the equinox are the exact same points. But in this case, the zodiac is divided into 3 sections of each season, based on, it's still daylight increase, nighttime increase, still the same, but it's measured against the equator. So the borderline between Taurus and Gemini, and between Aries and Taurus, is a few degrees different than the borderline when you're measuring it on the ecliptic. So it's the same zodiac, slight differentiations, but a difference in the degrees. So the stars had to be put in there. Stars are in different degrees. They're basically the same constellation, but it's a different alignment looking from the equator, and different timings around it. But the zodiac is 30 degrees, 60 degrees, is 360 degrees. It's every sign is 30 degrees. The houses are 60 degrees. Each house is 2 hours. They're both equal. It's almost a perfect system, the right ascension system, or the equatorial system, because a lot of people Australia has got to have equal houses. It has to be. They're talking equatorial, but they're working with tools that don't measure it exactly that right and that clearly. So in this chart form, we have the signs going around, and just like before, you had the color for the sun. Oh, there is one more thing around here on all these chart forms. When you see the zodiac around the edge of the tropical zodiac, you see the degree grid is colors. There's changing colors within each sign. As you go around, red, yellow, green, blue, and it's the zodiac repeating across every 2 signs. Just as you have spring and summer, and then fall and winter, you have a masculine and feminine sign. The zodiac repeats across 2 signs. We're going to have a whole class on this. This is the pentans. Every sign is 5 degrees. Every 5 degrees of a sign of the zodiac is another sign. There's a sub-sign. So these are the pentans, and they're colored. They're putting color around this wheel so you can always see them. Okay, on the inner wheel. So I didn't mention that. We'll look at that a little closer. The hexagrams are put around here. The light and the darkness put around. The constellations are put around. Just see what I have next. Okay, close up. Good. So I have a computer program that does these calculations. It wasn't set up to the charts, but it does the calculations. It gives you the geocentric, helio, and right ascension all on the same printout. but this was made in DOS. It was translated to C++ back in the 90s, and it's like 20 years out of date for the programming. And it could be updated, but it could be done better by making a whole new program that does all these things again and makes it together. So my hope is to find the 3 or 4 people who want to work on this and want to make the best astrology program ever, and make these charts available so you can get the program. And here's the charts that you can run out, and you can be working with this stuff. No one's going to take the time to do it. I just had to see it. I don't know. It's maybe from being into astrology so deeply, teaching all the time, it kept pushing me to another. There's another level there, another layer, another level. But the right ascension chart, this merges all the astronomy stuff. And it's on this level in the constellations. Oh, let's just back up a bit here. When we see here, again, the constellations are a little squished. We see Scorpio up at the top here. But around the equator, Scorpio, it's just touches the top of the equator. But that's where Ophiuchus is, the naked man with a snake between his legs and his bare feet standing on the Scorpio, standing on the scorpion. Well, here's the guy playing with his snake, and his bare foot is an arrogant, sexually oriented man who's got a bare foot on a scorpion. He's a second away from death. So in astrology, you'd hold on to the scorpion wings, because who wants to have the dead guy, the stupid guy about to be killed by a scorpion? As you know, there's many different people. I've given many different interpretations to him, as if he's the healer or things like this. He's just the dead man, you know, about to be. So that, but to the scientists, that's why they would bring in Ophiuchus, because it comes in right in this area above Scorpio. All kinds of stories when you start getting into mythology, into constellations, into their stories and teachings. But whoops. Okay, so where are we here? Okay, so we have our standard aspects we put in, but on this chart, there's a second degree. There's a second circle here of the houses. There's a second degree, a third degree grid for the houses. So you have a degree grid for the constellations, for the signs, and a degree grid for the houses that goes the other way. And in these houses, because they're equal and they follow naturally, they fit the color sequence can go around this as well as in the seasons. There's like the colors of the day and the night, the daylight increasing, night increasing, bringing out the colors. We see it in the signs, but we never put it into the houses because they were never equal. But here they are, so you can have a second set of colors, and they move the opposite way. Like we have the planets moving counterclockwise through the tropical signs, northern hemisphere, and we have the planets moving clockwise in the day, up around, coming up above the horizon and going up to the highest point of the sky and setting again. So this has a whole nother, it's almost like the house. This is where the zodiac is going, where the colors are coming in again for the houses. Now, in this, there's also an I Ching. So the I Ching on the inner, there's an I Ching for the inner wheel, but instead of solid broken lines, they're putting as red dots for the solid line and broken dots for the dark lines. And it has all the, so the IC will be the point of the lowest, where you see, here's the IC at the bottom, conjunct Pluto. And there's the point where this right here is the 6 dark lines or 6 broken lines. And opposite, you have 6 red lines. It doesn't see it quite that well. But this has the whole I Ching again repeated in itself. It's the only place that could come, because the ascendant and the midheaven have to be square for everything to fit naturally lines of the hexagrams for the degrees of the zodiac or the degrees of the houses. So this has a second color spectrum. And but these are some of the magical things of these equatorial or right ascension charts. You can do transits from that, you can do progressions from it, and there are different timings than there would be in your regular chart. It's a whole second grid. So you've got to have done your natal chart with your transit and your progressives and know you're that really well in your normal geocentric thing before you start exploring to see what happens with the heliocentric, or before you go into the equatorial, where you're getting same data, but there'll be a point where something starts in the right ascension chart or the equatorial chart, and there'll be a delay till it happens in the geocentric chart, and though the crises you're going through will be tied from the beginning of one to the end of the other. And some of these times they would be very close, some of these times could be years apart from each other.